back. So following on from the first start, I'm going to continue installing that center console. I've got the carpet kits, door cards, and we'll probably hang some panels as well. So we'll get into it. All right, I've installed I've marked it out. So I've got the bracket at the rear and the front. I've got the bang shift Aeroflow installed. Now, I've been debating with this, spoke to a few people, and they're like, why don't you just get a normal T-bar auto from the V8? Well, you know, because I wanted to do that, something different. It's all about trying some new things along the way. Some people have said that Aeroflow are called Aerofail because, you know, they're not good, and you don't want to really stuff around with your transmission. You know, I've since found out, because if it's in the wrong gear, you can stuff your whole transmission with by having a ratchet that isn't popping it into gear accurately. But I think as long as you set that up the correct way, I mean, these things have obviously, you know, they're selling, people are using them. They've got the right connector for the Turbo 350, which is, you know, going to pop it into gear accurately. So I think as long as you go through the gears properly beforehand, before you start it up and chuck it in, you know, I don't see how it can cause too much of an issue. So that's just about any kind of ratchet or shifter would be the same. You just got to make sure that you line them up correctly. I've since printed out this. I've designed and printed a new cover, so that allows me to put that in and cover that up like that. If I can stick that down, that'll provide that reverse lockout switch to pop in. You can buy these extended billeted arms for these, so they're another 30 mil. So if I get that and put that in, that will give me that extra access, because I can't get it sitting any higher than this because there's a spring underneath and it's just hitting the underside of this console. So it's going to be a bit of a short shift, but being an auto, it's not the end of the world. I don't mind. A lot of the sports cars that you get end up getting a short shift put in anyway. So I think it looks good. I'm happy with it, and it's going to have to do. So yeah, once that's in, I've got the carpet kit over there. So once it's in, it's the underlay and the carpet's going to lift it up slightly a bit as well. So yeah, it's going to be pretty short, but I think it'll be fine. So really, I've just got to take this off now. It's been a bit of a arse of a job, actually. I've got to take that off, line it up, and then I'm going to have to tack weld all the brackets in and make sure it's all lined up correctly, because once it's tacked in, yeah, that's it. So I'll take it off, mark it out. I'll have to grind some of this butyl rubber back, and then we'll tack it in. All right, bit of an update. So I've got the mounting bracket welded in the rear and at the front. It's really hard, a bit of an oversight. It was hard to get a good weld on those, so that's why they're a bit shit, but it's holding because of the butyl rubber. So if you're going to do that, don't put your butyl rubber on before you bloody want to do this. So anyway, so that bracket that I ended up having has ended up being basically, it's a sheet of steel. So that's the clearance that I needed. It was literally just creating a bit of a flat bridge across that depression there. It's allowing clearance for the shifter on the console, and everything sort of, yeah, lines up. This cable's going to be interesting. Going down there, it's going to be pretty tight. It'll fit. So yeah, this plate is going to need some reinforcement down here, just like a little piece of vertical steel just to drop down, just so it doesn't have any flex in it. And then really I'll just sort of do a bit of a tack and tack that in, and that'll be enough. And then it's just a matter of alignment. So I'm pretty happy with obviously the console alignment, and that's got some wiggle room both back and forth, side to side there. So this plate is pretty much where it's going to be as well. So yeah, I'm just going to fabricate up these side bits, and that'll be this job done. So I'll be happy to get this over and done with. All right, I've got that tacked in. Well, I've got the sides tacked in. Just seated it. And I'm pretty happy with that. I don't know exactly where that final position is going to be, but the plan was I'm going to riv nut through here and screw that directly on with Allen bolts. And I think that should be enough. I think there's 4 there. So I'm pretty happy with that. The height is good on the console. Check that. These are all obviously in. So really, just left to now. All that's left now is just to tack those corners in. Yeah, then I can start to think about the carpet, which I have. All right, so off camera, I've just welded those on, pretty rough. Got a riv nut, and that's a M6 riv nut. Just got those 3 marked out. It's pretty good clearance underneath. And so I was just looking at getting the right bolts, and I've managed to find 3 of these. I'll tell you what, this is my old grandfather's toolbox. And if you ever have the opportunity to get an old toolbox that someone's had for years and years and years, grab it. I got this, obviously, when he passed away, I inherited this toolbox, and it has probably 40 years of little bits and bobs that you need, that he's come across, that he needs in all his shed work and everyday life. You know, he's saved me, he's probably been dead 20 years, and I reckon he's saved me every year, so 20 times, for just finding something. Like, it's got little things like this little tool, some German tool. The old school guys would know that. I don't know what it is. You know, there's a little copper tube. He's obviously used that for something. You know, he needs a lighter to heat something up. Needs some wire. You know, this is not a a hole punch or anything. This is off something totally different, but it's actually beautiful to just punch holes in leather or do something that you need to, you know, mark out some tin. Don't know what that is, but I'm sure I could find a use for it if I stare at it long enough. You know, like this, just old school, but it still works. You know, he's probably getting a little bit carried away with this, but like there's, you know, this stuff, little tap threads, every single conceivable thing that's got him out of the shit before, he's popped in here, and I've just been reaping the benefits. Like, I'm not too sure what's in there, but little nuts, little bolts, and he was a great craftsman, my old pa, and yeah, I was actually privileged to have this toolbox. So if you ever have an opportunity to grab one, because I can guarantee it'll save you every single time. And in this case, the old man's nut and bolt toolbox has saved me. So I've got 3 of them. I just need to find one more, and I'm struggling to find it. I reckon it'll be in there somewhere, and then I'll have a matching set. So anyway, I'm going to get the rest of these done, and let's install it. All right, so she's all riv nutted, bolted in, both sides. Managed to find a different one in the end. Couldn't find all 4 of the same bolts. Test fit it with the console. Heights are good and position's good, and the clearance is good at the top, so it's all good to go. So the next stage before I tack it in is to get this sort of cable hole sorted. So you can see there, it's sort of pointing down, getting pretty close to that mounting bracket, but I think you can sort of, I'll have to have a look, but I think you can bend it slightly. Not a huge vicious bend, but you can certainly bend a little bit. It is a flexible cable, so I'll get the documentation out on that bang shift, and we'll see what we're dealing with. All right, so that's with the console in place. You can see the 2 holes line up there in the mount. Got a fair bit of sliding room there, back and forth, but the console really dictates, you know, based on this shape here, and also the back where it hits there, where it should sit. So even though you've got a bit of room to move, it's sort of, the body will show you where to put it. I've got my 3D printed case there that I've just going to put over like that. That just really finishes it off. Looks factory. So anyway, the documentation, it says, yeah, you've got to drill a 1.5 inch diameter hole for the shifter cable, 3 inches from the base of the shifter. Yeah, you can sort of see it there. So basically about 76 mil. And if I take this off, I'll show you how close we're talking. So you can see I've got a little grommet. It comes with this grommet here, or this bung, that'll allow you to put the cable in. And that's the cable there. It's a pretty hefty thing, but I guess it has to be. And that's the part that's going to be sitting on our shifter with this little clamp here. So we've got this plastic bracket, stabilizing bracket on the console that's covering that, unfortunately. And that's pretty reasonably crucial, I'd imagine, to keep the whole thing structurally stable. And although it's not going to be holding a lot of weight or anything, it's still nice to keep those structural bits if you can. It is plastic though. So I think, I can melt a little section out here to just get that clearance. I think that should be right, but it's really, really tight. Hang on, I'll show you with it removed. All right, so here it is. So you can sort of see that hole. It sort of lines up, but it is very, very tight. So it says 3 inches from the front of that plate there to where the hole needs to be, and that's 76 mil. So you can see I'm actually bang on, almost bang on. So I think it's gonna work. I had to tack that in to get the console position in order to get that. So she's been a fiddly job, but that's the bung there that needs to go in, and it's a 1.5 inch hole to drill. So I've got the drill over there. I hate drilling big holes in cars, especially the floor. Anyway, so I think really all that's left is to just drill the bloody thing and get it in. And then we can move forward with this because, as you know, it's been ages on this console. So I'm just going to go for it, drill it, and start getting this cable in. All right, bit of documentation on this shifter. So I've got the bung in there. It goes on that bottom hole actually, so I reckon that's pretty good. It's actually looking pretty well placed. So with these shifters, there is some things you need to do if you have different shifters, because it's a one kit fits all sort of thing. So basically, if you've got the GM 4-speed, you have to remove the forward gear selector pin, which is there, and put it in there, I think, or just remove it. And then if you've got Chrysler, Ford or Chrysler, you need to put the parking pin in there. So they provide you all these little goods in here. The parking pin is just there. They give you a C-clip with it. So you got to put it in there because the GM have a slightly longer throw in the cable. So if you've got a 3-speed turbo 350 like I have, then from what I can see here, you don't have to do anything. You just leave it. You have to ratchet twice to get from reverse to park because it is a longer distance. So if you only ratchet once, you won't be in park, and obviously the car will roll. So that's not ideal, but that's just the way it is, and it does say it in the documentation. So I'm going to leave it, and I'm just going to thread the cable in through the front there, see if we can get some fitment and testing it, and then I'll try and get underneath, because they give you all these brackets, and the one I want is the GM bracket and the GM lever for the Turbo 350. So it's got that on the next page, but for now, I'll just see if I can fit the cable. So it's now welded in off camera, and I just did a test fit, so happy with that. Reverse lockout, it's working. And clearance, and park. She's all locked in. I haven't bolted it in, but it's all positioned, and I'm happy with it. Sitting nicely. So just got to get that Ninja or Build Ninja mechanism that's going to talk to that little selector, the LED selector, which is I've got to buy as well, hook that in, but that can be at a later stage. I just want to get this carpet in, the last seat, and then the carpet in, before I do that, I need to just thread the cable. So I'm going to take all this apart now and tackle the cable, which looks to be a little bit of a nightmare because of the length. You have to sort of feed it around the transmission to get it lined up. So it's in park, that's what it says, push it all the way to park, so we know it's in park. And when I put the cable on, we'll push transmission into park as well. And then it's a matter of lining everything up, putting the bracket on for the GM Turbo 350, and that's it, and bolt it up. So here we go. Oh, just quickly, so I've just tack welded it in. Don't look at my welds too much. I didn't want to weld it in too heftily. I didn't want to run beads or anything like that, so I've just done some reasonably hefty welds in the corners, on the sides. That thing's not going anywhere. For some reason you did need to remove it. It's not going to be the end of the world just to grind off those welds. So everything's ready to go. It's lined up, as I said. The hole's there. Now I just need to get this cable, thread it in, and figure out how to position it so that I can hook it up. All right, so I've managed to get that in. The bung needs a little bit of massaging, but that cable is routed just down and then it's gone around. You can sort of see it sitting there. So I'll just tuck it back onto that. You can see the sump for the gearbox. And then that's the linkage there. So that's where it changes the gears. Originally, there was a big arm that came off that other T-bar order that I had on there from the Gemini. And these are the two clips that I've got for this bang shift, plus the 5/16 bolts. General Motors for all those models there, so mine's in that range. These are the brackets and the bolts and spacers, which I've got here. And you can see there's the linkage there, where I've got to hang that. And then you've got to take off two of the sump bolts and put the spacers there for this bracket. And the cable then routes there. So I'll start by putting this one on. And I don't actually have a nut for that. I'm hoping they provide one. So I'll just do that now. It's really tight under here, so I probably won't film it. I'll just do it and then show you. All right, so this is the bang shift gear selector bracket for the GM. Now, I'm pretty sure the 3-speed goes directly below. This is the original that came off it. So you can see the difference in the thickness of the metal there. Yeah, this one's just got a tighter fit on this slot here as well. This is just tiny little bit sloppy. And I was in two minds whether to actually just use this original. That was the actual selector rod that used to come off, and that goes through that eye there, and it clamps down with that bolt. So I was thinking, could I, reuse this, because I know it fits beautifully onto the selector, onto the actual gearbox. And whereas this was a tiny little bit of slop in it. I don't know if that would, it's obviously nicer to have no slop. It was on the cheaper end of the ratchets, even though it was still $500. It wasn't $750 for a B&M. So I don't know if that would fix it. But yeah, I was in two minds whether to actually use this original bracket and just cut it, find that hole, cut it. But it is on a slightly different taper on an angle. So that hole would sort of be, if I line them up, that hole would be off to the side. So I thought, you know what, don't make my life any harder than it needs to be. I'd love to use that because I know it's got a bigger angle on how it's sitting out as well, whereas this one's tiny bit tight on the pan because I've got an enlarged sump pan on the gearbox. So I've had to bash that out a little bit to try and get some clearance. So I'm just going to use this one, the one that came with the packaging, because it's just easier. It's designed to have that exact angle, and I just don't want to stuff around with anything that could potentially get the wrong angle going with the ratchet. So I'll just use this, even though I'm not completely happy with that with the fitment of it. We'll just install it and we'll go from there.
All right, so we'll fast forward. I've managed to install it with the original brackets. The cable's routed, sort of twisted around. Probably have to put some heat guard on that near the exhaust there, but I could probably pull it back a little bit. Brings it up a bit, so I could maybe cable tie it or something around there. But yeah, the play actually in that front gear selector bracket, once I tighten it up, it's actually all right. It's really secure. So it's a good little system. I take it back. It's it's very solid. So I've basically gone through and tested it, and now I've tightened it all up, and I've installed.
Got the seat in there, just position. She's going to be definitely low, but I tested it before. It's, being an auto, it's fine. But so yeah, that's in park at the moment, and so park 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, up 1, 2, 3. Park. Before I actually fire it up and drive it, I'll obviously run it past another person to see, probably Tim if he's around, just to see if it's all good and lined up. But from what I can see, it's and feel, I've gone through the documentation saying put it in low, put it in park, tighten her up, and so the clearance for the seat's fine as well. So really, it's just a matter of bolting that console down, putting the plate on, and that'll be it. But obviously I won't do that because I've got to go to the carpet now. So before I can do the carpet, I've just got to do this one last seat, get the position for that, and then it's carpet time. All right, so here are the door cards that I ordered off Cool Trim. Now that's not the standard pattern, but that's the one that came with the kit. It's about $1,250 for that kit, and that's the standard. That's the pattern that comes with that kit. I didn't mind it. It's sort of a little bit like the Monaro pattern, I think, from memory. Carpet is rolled up there. So that's just a molded carpet loop pile. And then I've got the underlay all packed away here. You've got the mats and headrests. Oh, sorry, not headrests. Kick panels, handbrake cover, a little bit more underlay. In the other door cards, there's the inside there is the roof liner, the other door card. So obviously got to install it yourself, but if you're after a interior package for your ute, and Cool Trim's not, I didn't tell him I'm promoting it or anything, but I just found that on eBay he was the most affordable option out there. So anyone that's restored a car before knows how expensive an interior can be. If you want to get some real flash interior, custom made, all that kind of stuff, real leather, then obviously go to a motor trimmer and get it done professionally, but be expected to get a bill for between $5,000 and $7,000, or depending on how hard you go. But if you just want to get it done similar to what it did, how it looked roll out of the factory, then Cool Trim packages, just do it yourself. The carpet's easy, underlay's easy. The most challenging part will be the roof liner, but the kick panels, door cards, they're all very straightforward to install. So really, in a matter of a couple of hours, you can deck out your whole interior of your ute for a reasonable price, I reckon. Anyway, so that's what I'm planning. That's what I'm doing. And off camera, I just put in those seats. I put in the original steering wheel, but obviously that's letting the whole thing down now. So I'm going to get a GTS replica because that'll just set it all off. If you got the dash, you want to get the steering wheel to go with it. So, so that's the console all done, and with the 3D printed thing, I'll probably have to just make another one just a tad wider just to cover up that section. But I mean that it's looking. I'm really happy with that bang shift and the way it's fitted in to that original console. It was a lot of work, but I think it's paid off. And the combination of the two, it looks mean. So just got to get that steering wheel. Obviously, I'm not happy with these seats. As everyone knows, I restored these back from the dead, and they do let the whole interior down because of that sort of tacky, shiny vinyl spray. But, you just got to get over the line. So for now, that's going to be enough. And then once I'm finished, I might save up and get them completely reskinned properly. So anyway, I had to do a fair bit of adjustment on these. That's the second seat I've done. I actually had to ratchet strap the rear of these runners inwards because it was about 10 mil out at the rear. But they're all lined up now and I'm happy with that. And even though they're around the other way, there is still room to get your hand down to adjust. Someone told me that there wasn't going to be enough room, but there's miles of room there. So yeah, I'm not too sure. There must have been a different seat. Anyway, there you go, one step closer. I'd like to get the carpet on now, but as you can hear, I'm a bit crook, so I'm actually should be resting, but I'll just sort of come out and do a bit more work on this. But that'll be the next episode, I think. All right, so that's it for this episode. Just a quick update on the WB tail lights. I know a few people have asked me. The production in the ABS and ASA plastic is a lot harder than the original prototyping. So I've been working at that and try and streamline how long it takes to make a set, because it's obviously going to take forever. It won't be viable to make. So I've also along the way had a chat to a few people. So I've redesigned the light fittings for each of the pods so they can accept a modern Nava bayonet fitting. So we'll do away with the old ones. But the way I'm designing it is you'll have an option to do either. So if you want to keep it stock, you can. If you want to have a bayonet, you can. So yeah, we're getting real close now. Carpet will be in, hopefully we'll be in shortly. I'll get that on the next episode. And then I'm going to get Tim back over. He's offered to help me hang the doors and hang the guards, and that will be the final assembly of this ute. Really, that's the only thing holding that up was putting the seats in, getting the carpet and the bank shift in. So now that I've got access into that area, then I can, I don't have to bang around with the doors there. So I just was a little bit worried I was going to scratch the doors. So hanging the doors and the guards is a pretty arduous process. You've got to be real careful. So it's going to be a fingers crossed day, and just heaps of tape. Take your time, and yeah, hopefully we'll get there with no dings and scratches. I'm looking to get an exhaust. I'm around the Bendigo area. If anyone knows of an exhaust maker, I want a twin exhaust on this. I'm up for suggestions on mufflers. I've also was originally going to go twin 3-inch all the way through. But I think someone said don't bother doing that. Just 2.5 is more than enough. And yeah, so I'm after anyone that's got a good muffler they know has got a deep throaty note for this 355 stroker. But obviously, you're not going to be just blowing your eardrums out in the highway. So it's a real fine line between that. So type away if you've got some suggestions for the mufflers, the system, and also a manufacturer and someone to do it. Yeah, if you haven't, follow me on Instagram, always posting stuff on there in between episodes so you can catch up with stuff. But really, we're not far away now, so stick with me and we'll get it over the line. All right, see ya.